Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. Today's guest is Sharon Delaney McCloud. Sharon Delaney McCloud is an Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, cancer survivor, Olympic torchbearer, author, and communications expert who inspires audiences on resilience and finding their voice. Through her professional development practice at Walk West, a full-service marketing agency, Sharon works with C-suite executives and emerging leaders at global organizations on developing their message and delivering it with confidence and impact in particular. Building women's executive presence is Sharon's passion and one of her most popular programs and keynotes. Prior to launching her company, Sharon spent 20 years as a television journalist, covering everything from NASA to politics to the Super Bowl at stations across the country. She has been featured in numerous publications, including Sheryl Sandberg's Option B digital platform, Enterprising Women, and is co-author of the new book, Keep Going, Memoirs of Strength, Courage, and Perseverance. Today's episode is all about building resilience in the face of adversity, a playbook for today's woman. At some point in your journey, you will face something that could make or break you. So how will you get through it? Emmy Award-winning journalist, cancer survivor, and bereaved mother, Sharon Delaney McCloud, presents a compelling and inspirational narrative on lessons she learned from the highs and lows of life as a working mother. As a type A orchestrator by nature, which I'm sure many of you guys could relate, got to have lists, you're all organized, you've got a plan. Sharon shares how she sought balance after a tragic loss and now embraces grit and gratitude to face each day with a new outlook. Her talk was very motivational, and it will inspire you guys to find the grit within to tackle challenges in the workplace and at home. Today, it got a little deep, it got a little real, it got a little raw, and so I just promise you to be ready. I did shed a few tears myself. And we got into just the realness of life, and she leaves us with 10 steps to build resilience in the workplace and at home, a deeper understanding of how to use grit and gratitude to overcome negative circumstances, because it's truly not the circumstances you're in, it's how you deal with your circumstances. And a different way to approach integrating your professional and personal responsibilities that align with who you are. So this promises to be a tearjerker today, you guys. So get ready and fasten your seatbelts. Without further ado, I want to welcome the one, the only, Sharon Delaney to the Sisterhood of Sweat. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Linda. I am delighted to be amongst your very cool crowd of listeners. So thank you for inviting me.
Oh, absolutely. I had to have you on after I saw everything that you were about, empowering women, grit, resilience, and you're a little Irish, right?
A little. Yeah. Yeah, I was born talking. Isn't that, I have the gift of gab of Irish people. My parents are Irish immigrants, came to the United States in the late 50s, and the rest of the family stayed behind. So it's the typical Irish family. My mom is one of 12 kids.
Oh,
I have
wow.
75 first cousins, and no, I don't know all their names.
I love that. I love that. And you said, where are you guys from initially?
Both my parents are from County Tipperary, which is right in the center of Ireland.
I love it. Can we hear a little Irish brogue?
Why, of course. But I was born in Nairobi, Kenya. And so the first 8 years that I was speaking, I always had an Irish accent. And then when I moved to the United States, I got teased unmercifully in school. So I dropped the Irish accent as fast as I could.
Oh. Well, I got to tell you, I love the Irish brogue, and we just went to Ireland for our 25th wedding anniversary.
Oh, Did you love it so much?
Oh, I loved it so much. It was just everything that I ever dreamed of. And
And
22% Irish.
oh, there you go. There you go. What was your most favorite thing in Ireland?
Man, that's hard to say. Oh my gosh. My favorite, my most favorite. Jeez. I like Dublin a lot.
Dublin's Dublin's great. You
I,
know what
I
I get when I ask people what their favorite part of Ireland is? It's usually the people. Is
well,
the answer I get.
okay, that would be, I was going to say going to the pub was an experience different from
Right.
here, because what I found when we walked in were a bunch of people sitting at tables, all connecting.
Without their phone.
Yes, without looking at the screen, talking to each other, enjoying one another's company, laughing, giggling, carrying on. And it wasn't about the drinks, it was about the socializing. And I just felt right at home. And I ordered Orchard Thieves. We kept calling it Stolen Orchard.
The same concept, right?
Yeah, we kept asking for it, and nobody knew what we were talking about.
That's hilarious.
But I absolutely loved the whole vibe of the pub. I had my Stolen Orchard, which is Orchard Thieves, and I thought, this is great. I wish we had more of this in the US.
Yes, that's the whole thing. Is there's in the US there seems to be a negative connotation oftentimes with bars or pubs, when in Europe it's not that way, and especially Ireland. It truly is a social thing. It's not about how many drinks can you pound and, acting like an
Right.
idiot. It truly is about the connection and socially engaging with each other, for sure.
It was so fun. I saw my husband look over at me with the mug. It kind of looked like beer, and I don't drink beer. And I just saw him soften and just warm up to that whole picture of me with the mug sitting in a bar. Because
Yeah,
it's
it's a
not
great
my
thing.
persona.
But you could become it for a short time anyway.
Oh my gosh, it was so fun. I love the warmth, the friendliness. My husband fit right in. He made friends everywhere he went. And the countryside was beyond gorgeous,
Hmm.
fabulous. We went to the beaches. We went everywhere. I even kissed the Blarney Stone for
Oh,
heaven.
there you go.
My husband said afterwards, he's like, that was scary.
Yeah, you have to do like a back bend to get in
Big
there.
time, hanging upside down. And I had a leather jacket on that was kind of long, and it was raining. And I thought, oh, what if I just slip on through the hole? Go, whoop,
It
there she
was
goes.
raining in Ireland? What?
So I absolutely loved the adventure. The people, the food was very hearty. And I noticed actually Irish people are in shape.
Yeah, they don't eat the amount of food that we do here. Portion control is more stable in Ireland than it is in the US. And frankly, I do think that, and I eat all organic here,
Yeah.
but even still, there's something different. I don't know what it is, but I hear all the time that you go to Europe and you live there for a short amount of time and you could eat the same things and weight just falls off of you. There's something about it.
The food was hearty.
Hmm.
I think filling, because I was not as hungry after having a meal. And I have to say, I did love the shepherd's pie with
Oh
lamb.
yeah. Yes, so good.
That was so good. I make my own version of shepherd's pie, and it's in my book, The Sisterhood of Sweat, just in case you guys want to make a really healthy version of shepherd's pie while we're talking about it. I make two, one with sweet potato topping and mashed sweet potato, and one with like a cauliflower mashed potato topping.
Oh, what a great substitute. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I suppose you could do it with another kind of protein. I've gone vegetarian in the last couple of years, so I'll be going to Ireland next summer for the first time since becoming a vegetarian. But I do eat fish. And so there are plenty of seafood options there.
Oh my gosh,
Fish
the
is
fish is so fresh
so
there.
much, so
I had a
fresh and
lot
delicious.
of fish. And actually, it's going to be great for you because there were a lot of vegan and vegetarian options on every single menu where we went. So I actually ate a lot of vegan and vegetarian dishes while we were there.
Good, good. Yeah, I'm delighted that there's a lot of options now. And I think that most places now have that. It's just a growing trend, I feel like.
Yeah, and I like taking a break from meat and having, vegetables and just feeling like I'm getting, you know, the plants and a little less heavy meat in my system.
Mhm.
But we are going to get into the meat and potatoes now, you guys, of our episode. So I want to dive into Sharon's story because I feel like it's going to be very inspirational and motivational to all of you listeners out there. So, can you give everybody just a background of who you are and why you do what you do?
Sure. As we now know, I born of Irish immigrants, lived overseas. I was born in Kenya, then moved to Tanzania, and eventually came to the United States when I was in elementary school, and grew up the rest of the time here, and decided to pursue a career in journalism. Again, more talking and storytelling, because that comes very natural for me. But honestly, it's about the telling of other people's stories that I loved. And so a television career took me all over the United States for 20 years. And during that time, I always thought I wanted to go to the Today Show. That was the big goal. And my dad and I used to watch the Today Show before school every morning. And he would point at Jane Pauley and he'd say, "That's going to be you one day, Sharon." And it always stuck in the back of my mind. And I thought, well, who knows? But as I went through college and did internships at TV stations, I decided, you know what, that is what I'm going to do. And you don't start at the Today Show. I think most people realize that. You usually have to start in much smaller markets, pay your dues, and work the craft. Learn to be a great storyteller using all of the good parts of journalism. Lots of debate about what journalism is today, but I know when I went to school, I was taught about being fair, accurate, and balanced in all of my storytelling, and that's what I always strived to do. Anyhow, so I
Amen.
moved
Amen to
all
that.
Exactly, exactly. We don't see a lot of that nowadays, and so it's hard to come by. But I still very much have an appreciation for true old school journalism. And probably, I guess, at my fifth TV station, you move a lot in TV. And my husband and I, he was such a trooper. I followed him for a couple jobs. He followed me for a couple of jobs. He kept saying, "When are we going to have kids?" And I'm like, well, gosh, at some point we will have kids, but right now, you travel all week. I work nights. At one point I was doing morning shows. And so I went to work at 2 o'clock in the morning and worked until noon each day. And then I went to the night side working 2 to midnight. But finally, when we got to Raleigh, North Carolina, we really felt that this felt like home. It was a good sized market. It's in the top 25 as far as market size. We felt like we could have a really nice lifestyle here. It's a great place to live. We get all 4 seasons. And at this point, I also had seen the people before me go to the network level to follow their dreams and saw a lot of their lives fall apart. Because once you get to the network level, those networks own you pretty much. Your life is really not your own. And if there's breaking news, they don't care what's going on in your life. You are dropping everything and you're going. And the amount of people at the network level whose marriages fall apart, whose children don't see their parents anymore because they're on the road so much, it was not what I thought when I was 22 years
Oh,
old.
wow.
And so that's when I made the decision, you know what, we really do like Raleigh. And I think this is maybe where we want to settle down. And we did. And that's when I said, okay, I'm doing the evening news. You're traveling a lot, but we can figure this out, whether it's babysitters, nannies. It takes a village to raise a child. So we'll figure it out when we decided to have kids. And Linda, I don't know if you're a type A personality or if any of your listeners are. We type A is also AKA control freak, right? List makers, people who have timelines and, almost like drill sergeants. We want to make a plan and stick to it, and lots of discipline around that. And, in my career, I was that way. And then with my family, I wanted to do the same thing. Well, we're going to have kids, but I want to have a boy first. And then 2 years later, I'd like to have a girl. And that's the plan. Well, I learned that actually life doesn't quite work that way, but I started down that path and we decided to get pregnant, and whoop, a month later we were pregnant and it was a boy. And so my son was born in 2002, and I went back to work after 3 months. We managed to figure out all of the childcare and all of that. And about a year and a half later, I said, okay, it's time to have a girl now. And so we started to try and get pregnant. Boom, I'm pregnant. And then we found out it's a girl. And I'm like, wow, my plan is in place. Got my boy, got my girl. And so then in October of 2004, my sweet Macey was born. And I took 3 months off, went back to work. And I was like, you know what? Everything that I planned really is happening. And I remember so clearly sitting in her nursery when she was about 4 months old, rocking her to sleep. And I remember thinking, I am so grateful right now. I truly, truly am grateful. I've been so blessed to have this family, to have my son and my daughter, my husband, the career I always wished for. We live in a beautiful area, love our community and our friends and our family. And then at Macys' 6-month wellness checkup, I brought her in. It was a normal checkup, or so we thought. And I was very proud to tell the doctor how Macey was 6 months old and meeting all of her milestones. She was sitting up and starting to eat her little solids, and she loved sweet potatoes and she loved spinach and all these things. And I said, but there's only one thing I can't quite explain. There's a bruise on Macey's belly, and it's been there for 3 weeks and it won't go away. And I promise we haven't dropped her. Nothing hit her. We don't know what this is. And so the doctor said, hang on a second. We're going to just prick her heel and just do a quick little blood test. So they did. And then her heel would not stop bleeding all over the floor. And we were holding her leg up, applying pressure, and there's nurses running in and out. Another doctor comes in and asks, do you have hemophiliacs in your family? No, we do not. And so then he said, well, then I need to tell you that you need to call your husband and you need to call someone to come and pick you up, and you need to hold Macey's leg up. And they are waiting for you in the emergency room at the North Carolina Children's Hospital, and you have to leave right now. I said, for what? What are you talking about? And he said, her blood counts have come back so askew. We believe she might have leukemia.
Oh my goodness.
And I was flabbergasted and silenced and dumbfounded. And I said to him, isn't leukemia like cancer? And he said, yes, it's a blood cancer. And you need to get Macey there fast. And so we did. We got to the hospital, and they were in fact waiting for us because they needed to start doing immediate transfusions. Macey's blood count was so askew that she basically had no platelets left. She was so depleted of red blood cells. Her little body, unbeknownst to us, what we didn't realize was starting to go into shutdown mode. And they got all of the transfusions going, and they started running 1,000,001 tests, as you can imagine. And after 2 days, they were able to confirm that she in fact did have leukemia. And not the kind that most children get. There are, as I learned, many different kinds of leukemia. And the one that most children get is called ALL, and it has about an 85% cure rate, which is amazing. But Macey had AML, which is typically what old people get, like people in much older, toward their 70s, elderly folks get it. And it's much tougher to beat. And we were, you can imagine it's like you're outside your own life looking in at this chaos that has unfolded. And everything had to change at a moment's notice. And at that point, our life's mission was to save our little girl. And she immediately went into very intensive chemotherapy and surgeries, and she was amazing, absolutely amazing, going through these protocols that would cut us at our knees. Any adult would barely survive it. And she not only survived it, she was thriving through it. And after we were in the third treatment, and the doctors were like, she's amazing. We've never treated a baby this young for leukemia and for this kind here at our hospital. And she's doing so amazingly well. And they were even now starting to talk about the future for the first time. And they sent in the Make-A-Wish people because things were looking so good. And we were so grateful because we knew the odds were really tough, but she was doing amazing. And then she caught a cold. And when you have no immune system, fighting even a cold can be acute. And unfortunately, the cold turned into many other things. And after 4 months of this very intense treatment, my little Macy was unable to survive everything. And we lost her in August of 2005. And my little Macy, she is the most amazing person I have ever known in my life. And she sits right here on my shoulder at all times. She's with me. I feel her presence so very deeply at all times. And she is the why of everything I do now. And the lessons I learned from her courage and her tenacity is the prescription for my life. And so I take my grief from all of that and I focus it into and throw myself deeply into all things now with that kind of tenacity. And so after she passed, we had to figure out a new way to live. And I tried to go back to work doing the news, but I couldn't sit up there on the anchor desk.
You just didn't have the heart for it.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
And I just decided, I think it's time to look at something different. And priorities had shifted. And so with a lot of advice and support from friends, I said, you know what, I'm going to go out on my own and try something new and different. And so I took some of that courage that Macy taught me and started my own company with another former news anchor who was also tired of the hamster wheel of the craziness of journalism. And we started our little company in 2008. And I'm happy to say that, all these years later, 11 years later, we have 40 people working for us, and we provide insurance, and we have an office, and we pay rent, and we actually have big girl panties on, and we
I love it.
We provide a life that people need, that is flexible for their families, that they can put their passions in front of them as a priority, and they can mix work. I don't think there's such a thing as work-life balance. I call it work-life integration. And there's different times, Linda, I'm sure you've seen in your life where things pull at you and they need your attention. And when one pulls, the other has to give. And when the other gives, the other one can pull. And that's what we've had to do. And, every time you think you've got things figured out, then you turn the page and something new happens. And in 2016, then I was diagnosed with cancer. And I knew then, I was like, okay, I'm going to be okay because I've got the blueprint from what my Macy did. And I'm going to put one foot in front of the other. And I'm going to face this with the kind of bravery that she did. And so I it was breast cancer, and I never missed a mammogram. And unfortunately, it had already spread by the time they found it. I found the lump myself, so please do your checks. Found the lump under my armpit. It was actually the lymph node that had swollen pretty significantly. And so I had to do 5 months of chemotherapy, double mastectomy, 2 months of radiation, and then a year-long clinical trial. And so that was 3 years ago. And I'm feeling great. I'm on meds for probably about another 7 years. My hair grew back. and and now I am on a mission to make sure that everyone knows they need to be the CEO of their own health and listen to your body and follow those instincts. And if and when challenges happen, because they will, face it with bravery.
Wow. So how in the world did you pick yourself up and keep going after your daughter died? Because I know that that had to be one of the most difficult things that's ever happened to you, even beyond having breast cancer.
For sure. It was as devastating as people often say. And I'll tell you, Linda, I thank God every day that we had Connor, our older son. He was 3.5 at the time. And I don't think I would have had the will to get out of bed if we didn't have our son. But he so desperately needed us. He missed his sister too. He was mourning for his baby sister as well. And so thank goodness that gave us immediate purpose right in front of us. Like, okay, well, we can't just lay down and not face reality. We have a little boy who so needs his parents back because we were absentee parents while she was sick. And so that really was that was step one to get us going. And then the next part for me, after I got over the tremendous anger of losing her, was wanting to honor her life and to do things that could maybe help other people. And, it sounds maybe a little Pollyanna because there were plenty of really bad days, and there still are. But for the most part, it's trying to make my Macey proud. And the most recent thing that I'm most excited about is I've been selected to do a TED Talk.
Awesome.
And the subject matter is pretty heavy, but it's desperately needed. And it's around the subject of how to talk to bereaved parents. Because people don't know how.
Exactly.
I didn't know how.
Right.
It's the most awkward, horrible, terrible conversation anyone wants to have. But as a bereaved parent, we so desperately, not all of us, but a lot of us love to talk about our kids, the ones that are our heavenly kids, love to tell you about her. And so just to hear her name spoken can bring such joy. And so that's what my TED Talk's going to be about.
I love that. I love that. So if we were speaking to a bereaved parent, because I think a lot of us do not know what to say. We want to reach out, we want to help, but we don't know what to do. What would be your top tips?
I have created in the research for the TED Talk, and I'm going to be building out a digital platform at some point to go with it. Basically a resource, like what to say to a parent who has just lost his or her child, no matter the age. And also I want to be very clear in saying this includes miscarriages and stillbirths. Those are people's children too. And there's so much pain and silence and isolation that's associated with that as well. And it doesn't have to be that way. And so in my research, I found that, think about this, Linda. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. What do you call a woman who has lost her husband?
A widow.
Yes. And what do you call a husband who's lost his wife? Oh, a widower.
Okay, yes.
Right?
Sorry, I was at a loss there.
No, I know, because it's most women outlive their husband.
Okay.
And
yes.
What do you call a child with no parents?
An orphan.
Right. So then I ask, what do you call a bereaved parent?
Yeah, I have no idea.
It's sort of a trick question.
Yeah.
There is no word.
Okay.
And I said, that's crazy. How can there be no word for it? And then I thought, well, there is no word. So I started to do a lot of digging. And there is a word that I have come across called viloma, and it's spelled Vilomah. And it's an ancient Sanskrit word, which is a Hindu, an Indian language. And what it means is against the natural order, which is what you might think of as a bereaved parent. Like, you should not have to bury your child. And so that is against the natural order. So I thought, you know what, I think there's something to that. And there, if you Google the word viloma, things are starting to pop up. But I want to amplify the word, because I think if you have a name for it, then you can start a conversation about it. And so many vilomas, because I'm going to start using the word, would love to talk about their lost child or their heavenly child. So here's step one. If you meet someone and you find out that they are a bereaved parent, what I would say is, the first thing you say is, I'm sorry for your loss. Would you like to talk about your daughter or your son? And that just, it's like choose your own adventure. And then that leads the bereaved parent or the viloma to say, no, actually not. I don't, today's not a good day. I don't want to talk about her. Or, oh my gosh, you want to hear about her? And then say, yes, please tell me something about her. Oh, I'd love to share. And so then if they say, yes, in fact, I would like to tell you about her. And then ask the parent, what's his or her name? And oftentimes, you can kind of then read and actively listen to the conversation. And it doesn't mean it's going to go down some 3-hour sad cry fest. It could be just it was my daughter's birthday last week, and I really appreciate the fact that you asked about her. Her name is Macys, and thank you for even being interested and acknowledging her. And that can bring tremendous joy. And so then you could easily say something like, you know what? Thank you for telling me about Macys. And the next time I see a butterfly, I'm going to think about her. Because that's one of my stories that I share about Macys, is I've come to think of her as a butterfly. So anyhow, so it's a simple playbook. One, acknowledge and say, I'm sorry that you've had that deep loss. Would you like to talk about him or her? 2, ask their name. And 3, reflect on it. Like, thank you for telling me about Macys. And that's it. It's really that simple.
So now I really want to hear the story about Macys and why you think of her as a butterfly.
Thank you, Linda, for asking. I'll tell you, a week after Macys passed, I was in an extremely low point, and a friend at the hospital gave me the name of another mom who had lost her son to the exact same cancer 1 year before. And I just called this woman out of the blue. She had no idea who I was. And I explained that my Macys had just passed the week before from the same kind of cancer, and would she be willing to talk to me? And she said, of course. And over the course of 2 hours, this woman filled me with such love. And in that, she said, your Macys is gone in the physical sense, but she is still very much with you. And you are going to see signs of nature. And they're going to come to you when you least expect it, but most need it. And she said, you'll just know. You will know she's around you in a metaphysical sense. And as she's telling me this, I was sitting on the front porch. A swallowtail butterfly came and flew around the swing I was sitting on for 10 minutes. And I said to this woman on the phone, I said, I don't know if this is coincidental or if I'm making this my own truth right now, but there's this little butterfly that is just nonstop flying around me. And she said, make it what you will, but that could be your Macys. And so from then on, the butterflies are my Macys.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that could really help somebody out there that has a loss to recognize that and begin looking for it. Because I always think that there are signs if you're paying attention.
That's it, Linda. Have you ever had something like that when you've gone through something so difficult and you were praying for some kind of sign?
Yes, you almost brought tears to my eyes because I was thinking about when my dad passed and how hard it was for me because he was my best friend.
Oh,
And I just, not being able to talk to him on the phone was really difficult. And I just remember going to sleep one night and he came to visit with me in my dream.
oh,
It was such a beautiful dream. And he talked to me, we spent time together. And then I felt okay when I woke up. I didn't want to wake up from the dream because it was so awesome to just have him there. But when I woke up, I felt fine and I felt like released from all of the pain that I had been going through for, 3 weeks. I cried morning, noon, and night. Sorry, guys, because I missed him so much. And after that, I was able to go on and give a speech about him at Miss Fitness USA
oh, wow.
and not cry. I didn't cry. I don't know why I'm crying now, but it's okay, right, guys?
This is a safe place. It's a safe place.
But just, him coming to me, I felt like I could go on then, like whatever he must have talked to me about in the dream. And I've went on ever since. And I think just I felt his presence. And there's times when I feel him and I hear him. And I know he's there looking down at me, proud of me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's, death is a hard subject. And in the United States and in our culture, we're pretty much allergic to talking about it. And it is hard. I get it. But the problem is we're all going to face it one day. And so I think that maybe if we could start some of these difficult conversations, it can bring comfort and joy to people
And
who
really
are hurting.
the one thing that I can look back at and remember is the night that he died. I was at his bedside and I had put everything else, because I'm a workaholic, on the shelf, not doing anything because he was dying. And I went to see him and he was on morphine because that's what kind of helps ease the pain as they're passing. And he just sat up in the bed and he said, "I love you, Linda." And it was almost like a goodbye. "I love you forever." And then when he laid down, he said, "Everything is as it should be."
Mm,
And so I was able to accept, because it was hard for me to accept that they put him on morphine because I knew what that meant.
yeah.
But I was able to accept that everything was the way that it was supposed to be because my dad said so, and go on and have peace about it. And then the dream. So I just think there's moments that you can have when you tune into your soul and your spirit and you listen to it.
Yeah. In our noisy world, we have to be very deliberate about quieting down to be able to do that.
Absolutely. And that's what I did this weekend. I took 4 days off from exercise because I was in overwhelm in my life. And I went to an event, Mommy Millionaire Live. I have my shirt on. I am worthy. I am worthy.
I love
And I got clarity because I just shut out all the noise. I didn't do my normal working out. And then I came home and I made decisions that I've been needing to make. And can
it.
I just tell you, I felt so free, so happy, so excited.
Oh,
And like a dead weight had been dropped off my shoulders just from taking those 4 days off.
that's so good. Now let me ask your advice, Linda. As a breast cancer survivor, my oncologist said I must schedule deliberate exercise because studies show that women who are sedentary after treatment and gain weight and don't exercise, with each pound you gain, you are that step closer to a relapse. And
That's pretty serious.
yeah, and talk about motivation. Like, what am I doing? Why have I not made that decision to put it in my calendar just like I do conference calls or meetings? What can I do to start? Any words of advice to just kick in my pants to make me do it?
Well, first of all, realize that you're worth taking the time for. Like my shirt says, I am worth it.
Yeah.
That it's an investment in you, and it doesn't have to be a long, drawn out, beat you down workout. Actually, those are ineffective because they raise your cortisol. You could do a 20, 30-minute workout and just be consistent with it, because it's really about showing up consistently. It's not about having the warrior mentality that it's all or nothing. And make it enjoyable. You know, what do you enjoy? Like, I enjoy getting outside in nature and listening to a podcast. I like to listen to something that fills me up on the inside while I'm moving my body. And then all of the great, brilliant ideas come when I am doing that. I even write in my cell phone or talk into it when I have all the juices flowing and all the ideas coming.
Oh.
I wrote my book that way. I wrote my first book that way.
Awesome.
And so I would just say, like, what do you enjoy? So, I mean, I don't know, like maybe it's watching the news, or maybe it's definitely not watching the news.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to turn it off because I was watching it too much. And one night I woke up worried about our world. And I couldn't sleep.
I know. Yeah.
I was like, I got to turn it off. I got to turn it off. Yeah. But whatever it is you enjoy, you know, if it's getting in nature, if it's going and taking a yoga class, belly dancing, whatever it is that helps you to want to do it more.
So consistency, find the thing I love. You know what I want to go back to? I want to go back to ballet.
I think you should. Absolutely.
So I have to find an adult ballet class.
Hey, I love the idea because, well, I mean, my ballerina friend who was part of the Cincinnati Ballet Company told me I'd never make a ballerina. I'm like a bull in a china shop. But I still would like to try taking ballet just for the hell of it.
I mean, it's such an athletic thing. I mean, Misty, oh my gosh.
I'm an athlete.
Like total athlete.
Yeah. Just not like, I wouldn't consider myself a ballerina, you know.
But it does require tremendous strength.
It does, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's kind of comparative to doing like a Ashtanga yoga, where you have to use your entire body and tighten it and hold it up off the floor.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look for that. Ashtanga?
Ashtanga. That's my favorite.
Okay.
That's
so
the style I teach.
Ashtanga today, and you've learned Viloma. Can I hear you say Viloma?
Viloma.
Viloma.
Wow, I'm really enjoying this conversation. There's so many things we've tapped into today. I hope we didn't make anybody cry out there, but if we did, just open up your heart and just kind of surrender to that moment. It must have been meant to be for you. And I couldn't be the person that I am if we did not bring you out on the other side of that. So I want Sharon to give you 10 tips for resilience and overcoming any kind of tragedy in your life.
Yeah, so I have my favorite thing that I love to share is it's my quick little playbook, and I don't like to pretend that I'm some kind of researcher or social psychologist like Brene Brown, one of my heroes. But what I feel like is these are skills that are easy and doable for all of us. And They are something we can all put into play in our lives, and not all at once. Let's be serious. These are things that you can do 1 or 2 or 3 things at a time. But these are my favorite hacks to life to build resilience. One, and it's a big one, but you can start with small pieces of it, and that's be brave. And I have a handout that I'll, it's a little downloadable PDF that Linda can share with everyone. Being brave, as you heard with my story, it's tough to take risks sometimes, but risk oftentimes leads to reward and getting out of your comfort zone and giving it a shot. My second tip is one step at a time. You can't eat an elephant in one bite, right? One step at a time. The third thing, which for women is truly difficult at times, but it's to accept help.
Oh, right,
And
right. Ask
right,
for help and accept help when somebody
yes,
offers.
we can be so poor at that skill, but let me tell you, if you accept help, then you can also be the first person to raise your hand to give help when someone else needs it. The fourth thing, which relates back to the one step at a time, is take risks. Now, these can be, very well thought out risks, but if there's a fork in the road, don't always delete to the easier way. Let's look and truly vet out what that tougher way is and realize that that reward may be waiting for you at the other side. The next step, number 5, which is also sometimes tough for me as a natural control freak, and that is being flexible. And I mean that in the figurative. Also, hey, we know, Linda, we need to be flexible in the physical sense too, but in the figurative way, being flexible and being able to see things from other people's perspectives is really important, especially when you're building trusted relationships with people. The sixth thing that I like to say is look for the good. Like the glass should be half full, not empty. And that's tough on really hard days to look for the good, but you can always look for the good. The seventh thing, which another one that's tough for women to do, learn to say no.
Yes. I've been learning that. I've been polishing that down because a lot of the time we're just people pleasing and we're not pleasing ourselves at all.
Exactly. The next one is make life a little bit easier. And I have a couple of apps that I've got on my phone to accomplish this. One is Audible, the app Audible. Because here's the thing, there's so many amazing books out there, so many that I want to read, but I fall asleep in the bed trying to read them. I mean, I'll buy all these books and I go to conferences and I meet the author and they sign and I bring it home and I can't wait to get it read. And next thing you know, I'm like a page in and I'm snoring. Like, oh my goodness. So I have come to realize, yes, I've got great intentions to read these books, but let's be real. So I download it and I listen to the book and I still get great content and get great inspiration from it. So it's okay. The other app that I love is called Shipt, Shipt, P like Paul, T. Shipt is an app that does your grocery shopping for you. Now, I'm lucky that I have some great local groceries that I can choose which grocery store I send them to, and I can order organic produce. I still do some of the grocery shopping myself if I'm looking for very specific things. However, I live in a house of boys. I have 2 sons and a husband who love all sorts of different things. So I make life a little easier that way. And then I also use Evernote. You have that app, Linda?
Yes.
Lifesaver, right?
Right.
It's every list that I've ever got lives on Evernote.
I like to check everything off my list.
Yes. And so
I go back and check my list and see, did I accomplish all those things? And I can find lists from years ago.
Yes.
Everything on that list.
Evernote's amazing. That's where I store all of my passwords and everything else. And the next skill that I think it's truly important is to make time for your friends. As busy women and busy people nowadays, because I see my husband doesn't make time for his friends either. But for me particularly, I work full time. I'm also a speaker, so I travel some for that. And then I've got two boys that I'm running here to and fro with, soccer practice and this practice and all this stuff. And my friends end up going on the back burner. But my friends bring such joy to me. So I'm very deliberate now about making some time with my friends. And then the 10th and final step and skill that is a skill is sleep. We have to get proper sleep. You know this all too well with health and wellness, that if you do not get good sleep, your body will start to fall apart, as well as your mind, right, Linda?
Sleep is a healer. It's when your body regenerates.
And so my boys know that if I feel askew, my boys go, "Mom, do you need a nap?" Maybe. Mommy needs a nap. But really sleep, yeah, that's when everything regenerates and heals when you're sleeping.
Wow.
So those are
you guys heard it here. 10 tips for resilience from Sharon Delaney. And I just want to acknowledge you so, so much for coming out on the other side of two terrible tragedies with joy and resilience and the courage to stand up and help others and give back to everyone in a very significant way.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for allowing me to share some of this story, and I appreciate it very much.
Again, where can they get the download and where can they reach out to you on social media?
Sure. So I have this download is available at my website, which is sharondelaney.tv. So just like my name, Sharon Delaney, and then .tv for the harkening back to my TV days. And I have a couple of blog posts there, and one of them has the download with the top 10 tips. And I print it out and I have it just at my desk as a reminder. Because life is tough and we got to help each other through it. So sometimes it's just need a reminder that if you just do a couple of these things each day, you can certainly feel braver toward the world and feel more resilient.
I love it. Let's all get the download, and please, please, please review in iTunes and let Sharon know how much you appreciated her heartfelt episode today. Thank you, Sharon, and thanks everyone for listening to the Sisterhood of Sweat.